Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today I'm just doing a general Q&A, so if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat, and I'll be happy to make my way through them. We've got a few things that have come up just recently in the Academy. Whoops, Daisy. Where's that coming from? Look at that. I've got my YouTube open in the background. Never mind. There we go. Yeah, any questions that you've got, feel free to just drop them into the chat. A couple of things that have just come up recently, and I'll mention this one again because it's something that I have talked about, but we had some conversations about this in the Academy just recently, and it's actually how I manage my screens and how I use Moom in conjunction with Ecamm Live to share different portions of the screen. And as I say, it's something I've talked about before, but it's maybe not been entirely clear. So I'll just show you my sort of setup. I've got my Ecamm is usually over here. We've got the Zoom backstage over there at the moment, but normally my Ecamm would be there. And then I have, at the moment, I've got my Ecamm output window in my teleprompter. I've got the chat down here, but then this is my sort of main screen over here that I usually use for sort of sharing. So, well, actually for working, but when I'm recording or streaming, this is where I've got things that I'm going to want to share into the production. So the way that I have this set up is that I use a tool called Moom, M-O-O-M, and this is a window management tool, and it allows me to create different layouts on my screen. So for example, I can get set up with, putting everything in the right place when I first get started, but it also has this ability to have different areas of the screen, and then I can press a button or a keyboard shortcut to put things in certain positions. So what I've got on my Stream Deck is I've got these 6 buttons which correspond to 6 different areas of the screen, 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom. And so as I press those buttons, you'll see that it's going to move around the active window into one of those 6 positions. So it means that I can just put this thing anywhere. So if I'm on a live stream or indeed a call or anything like that, and we start talking about something that I've not prepared in advance, as it were, I can just open up whichever app or browser or whatever and just put it into a particular position. Now, the reason for that is that I then have scenes in Ecamm Live that are set up to share different portions of this desktop. And I have buttons corresponding. So these are the Moom buttons that put the thing into the correct place. And then over here on my Ecamm controls, I've got these buttons here, which are basically sharing that particular portion of the screen. So that window there, if I wanted to share that one, is in the sort of top center. So I'm going to switch to this scene in Ecamm, which is also then sharing the top center. And so that's now how that is sort of perfectly framed. So it means that if there is something else I want to put in there, I could move this out of the way, but then I would do this in the background while the scene isn't live. But you'll see that as I just pop something into that position using Moom, it just immediately sort of frames it into the correct place. So this is the way that I use Ecamm. And with screen sharing, by the way, one of the advantages of sharing your entire desktop and then cropping into a particular area is that it means that if you're using a tool like ProMouse, which is this thing that I use for highlighting the screen, if you're using ProMouse, that is only going to show up if you are sharing your entire screen in Ecamm, because Ecamm is set up that obviously if you're sharing an app, it excludes all other apps, and ProMouse itself is an app. So you want to make sure that you're sharing the whole desktop, but then you can just sort of crop in. And the benefit of that then is that you can use all the features of ProMouse, even if you're appearing to just be working in a particular app. But the other thing that I like about this particular sort of workflow is that it means that I don't really have to think about too much which window I'm sharing or which screen I'm sharing, because all I do is just sort of glance up here, put something in an available slot or whatever up on the screen, and then I've just got the muscle memory to know that these are the buttons here to share any one of those particular positions. Now, this came up recently in one of the Academy office hour sessions because somebody was talking about using spaces. And spaces on the Mac is this thing that you've got where you can have effectively multiple desktops on a single screen, and you can sort of swipe between them. Now, technically, although you've then maybe got 5 desktops with content on different ones or applications open on different desktops, it's only ever going to present one of those to Ecamm or OBS or whatever you're using at a given time. So you're only able to ever sort of access whatever is physically visible to you on the screen at any given time. Now, technically, that means that you could have a scene set up in Ecamm, and then you could swipe between different spaces to, you know, change the content that you're seeing. The only issue that I had with that was that it relies on me having that extra little bit of cognitive ability to know exactly which space things are on. And so that's why I've just preferred to have no spaces whatsoever, but I just have a screen that gives me the ability to put things wherever I want to have them, so that I can see whatever I'm going to be sharing. And obviously it's rare that I'm sharing more than you know, sort of 6 things that I need to have them all open at the same time in any given live stream, presentation, or things like that. It might be that I've got multiple different tabs. So, for example, in here, I've got different tabs that I could flick to. So I'm just switching tabs to change the content. So I will do that. If there's multiple different web pages, I'll have them all open and sort of flick between them like that. So I'll tend to have like one of these Ecamm scenes that has got Safari open, or one for Stream Deck, or whatever it happens to be for the purposes of the demo. So that is how I'm using Moom with Ecamm and the scenes set up to sort of share those different parts of the screen. So Ernesto, let me just come to some questions right off the bat. I have got some other things to go through, but can an OBSBot webcam work with the Elgato Stream Deck Plus USB attachment? It absolutely can, and interestingly, I've got that right up on the screen there. So the way that this works is if you've got a Stream Deck Plus, it used to be that the Stream Deck Plus literally just had the, you know, you've got the dials and the buttons on the top here. This is a little screen, but then there was the USB that came out of the back of it to connect it into your computer. A little earlier this year, they added in the option for 2, what do they call them? Power-ups, which are basically things that you can plug into the back of them to basically give these devices a bit more functionality. So one of them was this one. This is actually a prototype that they sent me about 18 months ago, but it's changed a bit from this. But this has got an XLR input and then also headphones. So this is a way to connect a microphone through the Stream Deck Plus. But the other one is what I've got on my desk actually, which is this in the back of here, and it is a USB hub. So this thing here basically just plugs into the back of the Stream Deck. So this sort of shows you how it sort of plugs into the existing socket. So if you've already got a Stream Deck Plus, you can buy this and sort of upgrade it to create a dock from it. And as you can see, it's got lots of connectivity in the back of it. One thing to note is that you've basically got here 2 USB-As and 2 USB-Cs. So in terms of the outputs, that's what you've got. There are 2 further USB sockets. One of those is for connecting to your computer. So that's how you actually take it into your computer. And then the other one is a power input. So as soon as you plug in the power input, it then becomes a power dock. And really, you could power anything from it that you could power from, you know, a 100 watt dock. So think about something like, you know, the CalDigit Element Hub, which is one that I also use. I think that's 90 watt. And that's got 4 USB-As or 4 Thunderbolt, 4, I guess, and 3 USB-As, sorry. Whereas this has got 2 USB-As, 2 USB-Cs, and of course there's one internal which is effectively going into the Stream Deck Plus as well. So that is the thing to note, is that if you look on here, you can see that this one is for power, for 100 watt power input, and then this one is for connecting to the computer. Now, if you have got a laptop, it can actually power the laptop as well. So 65 watt uplink to your laptop. So technically, this could become, you know, your dock that you plug in your computer into, or your hub that you plug into your computer, where you just have your other things connected, like, for example, your OBSBot camera, maybe another Stream Deck, whatever, maybe a printer or whatever you've got there. And then you could just literally put your laptop down, plug it in with one cable into here, and it's drawing the power from this socket through this one and into the computer, and also powering those other peripherals that you've got plugged in as well. Now, actually, I'm using this on my desk purely for one purpose. So I've got my Stream Deck Plus, and then in the back of it, I've essentially just got 2 cables that are coming out, and one of them's going to this Stream Deck and one of them's going to this Stream Deck. So all it's doing is sort of tidying up my cabling, that I've just then got one single cable that goes out of the Stream Deck Plus, and actually that is going to my CalDigit Element Hub, and then it's basically extending out to these 2. Now, you'll notice as well that I'm not actually using the power socket at the back. So I haven't used the power input function. It's not taking any power in. I'm literally just using it as an unpowered dock effectively. However, as you can see, it is still providing enough power through the cal digit into this and into those two. So that's the other thing to note, is that you don't necessarily need to have a power supply as such for that. If you are looking for a power supply, I would highly recommend Ugreen. So that's what I use for all of my sort of cabling. I'll just pull up this because I've got a 300 watt on my desk. So if you go to ugreen.com, they've got a lot of things on there, and you can find them on Amazon as well. I'll just drop the link into that though. But if we go down to here, power supplies, I've got one of these on my desk. So this is what I use for powering. Well, it's actually charging everything. It's got my little phone magnetic charger for my phone and AirPods. It powers a number of other things, charges up other devices. So this one is the one that I use for that. Actually, that's quite significantly reduced. It was 269, now 169. But that's 300 watt. I mean, that's loads of power. You can basically power everything off your desk from that. But there are lower power ones as well. I've got a couple of these bricks, so that's 160 watt. So basically you would have some sort of power supply that you then take a USB-C out of the power supply and into the back of the Stream Deck Plus. And then, as I say, yeah, that could totally power the OBSBot. That's a very long answer to your question. The short answer is yes. It can. By the way, the OBSBot webcam, so that's what this is. I use the OBSBot Tiny 2, is this cam. And then I've got a few of these other OBSBot tail airs around. I say a few, I've got 3. There's one of them behind me. Where's the other one? Oh, my top-down camera is an OBSBot as well. And then this one is usually somewhere else in the studio. However, if you're looking to buy one of the OBSBot tail airs, I would hold off. There is something new coming. They've I can't say anything about it, but they have teased it in their own forum. So I know that they have been teasing it themselves in their OBSBot user group. But yeah, if you're looking to get an OBSBot tail air, I'll just hold off because there's something interesting coming from that. The Tiny 2, though, I will say the Tiny 2 is I can't sort of show it to you. Well, I can show it to you, actually. That's a lie. I can totally show it to you. There it is. That is actually a really interesting camera, because it is called the Tiny 2, but actually it's got a bigger sensor in it than the OBSBot tail air. Again, the newer version might not be the case, but what it means is you are getting a really good image quality out of what is a really small camera. And if ever I'm going away, I'm actually going away this weekend. That'll be what I'm taking with me on the trip. So it's really small, compact, and really great image quality. And although you might think, well, should I get the Tiny 2 or the tail air, because this one seems more full-featured. It's a case of, do you really need all of those features? Like this one in particular, just this one has the SD card output. It also has NDI wirelessly. It's got a USB-C, so you can take it out just as a regular USB webcam. It's also got an adapter that you can use out of the USB-C to connect into Ethernet, and then it can do NDI over Ethernet. And it's got all these different ways of connecting, and it's got a built-in battery as well. And various other features, but the question is that something that that's going to be of use to you? If you are just looking for a compact camera with pan, tilt, and zoom, the OBSBot Tiny 2 is a great choice as well. So yeah, let's have a look. You've got the where's this? Yeah, the Tail Air 2. Yeah, there have been they've posted about it, as I say, in their own forum. So I will be getting one to test it out. But they've still keeping a lid on some of the specs of it. But it's really interesting what they're doing. The one that you've mentioned there, the Meet 2, that's one that I haven't tested, but that is also a great camera by all accounts, and very small. And that would be something where that doesn't do the pan, tilt, and zoom. So, I mean, really, I say, talking about whether you need the features, the Tiny 2 is great. And, I can, whoops, if I go to the right scene, I can use the pan, tilt, zoom. So I've got that on my Stream Deck, so I can move it all around like this, and sort of change positions to multiple different positions like this, with different presets. And I'm doing that all on the Stream Deck. But yeah, if you're just using it straight on, then the Meet 2 is also great and very very high quality by all accounts as well. That's one thing as well, by the way, with all the tail airs, with all the OBSBot, the ones that do the pan, tilt, and zoom, you can just sort of program that on the Stream Deck. So whilst we're talking about it, I might as well just mention that as well. So I've got a profile that, or rather, it's actually in a folder because I tend to just sort of dip into this as opposed to need it all the time. But this is basically, I've got these 3 preset positions for the OBSBot, and then I've got the sort of left and right for pan and tilt, and then the center, and then zoom, and then there's these ones which are for toggling on and off things like auto white balance and things like that. Technically, that should just be a case of you set it and then forget it. But I have noticed that sometimes it, the auto exposure particularly, I don't know why, but occasionally that seems as though it just automatically goes off or on or one of the other. It turns on basically. And so sometimes I will, if I go to this camera position, what happens sometimes is my picture just goes dark. I don't know why it does it automatically. It just turns to auto exposure. So I've just put a button on my Stream Deck to correct that and turn it off, and then it just returns to whatever I've set it to instead. So that is what that is for. So let me just come back to here. So yeah, this is just with the Stream Deck, the OBSBot plugin for Stream Deck. And here you can just choose one of these 3 options, either setting something, adjusting something, or resetting. And so like if you have this set webcam, then you've got all the properties down there. So whatever it is you want to change, like set the zoom, device saturation, and all these sorts of things. And then there is one that's for more like adjustments. So there you're going to see similar things, zoom, contrast, saturation, and so on. But one of them is for incremental adjustments up or down, whereas the other one is actually for setting some specific level on that. So depending on how you want that set up, you can use those accordingly. You can also use it on the Stream Deck Plus, have the dials to zoom in or zoom out, or those sorts of things as well. So yeah, and just whilst we're still talking about this, Ernesto, you can indeed use the OBSBot remote while using the Stream Deck as well. So if you've got the OBSBot Tail Air, there is, by the way, it's in a drawer because I haven't used it in a long time. Where is it? In fact, I've lost it. It's somewhere. Oh, no, so it's over on my shelf over there. I haven't used it for so long because I just used the Stream Deck. But yeah, there is a remote that you can get for the OBSBot as well. And yeah, you can still use that even if you're connected with the Stream Deck as well. The reason why I didn't use, I sort of stopped using the remote is, first of all, I am just always sitting here at my desk anyway, so it made sense. But I did also find it was just a bit, it would either not be charged or it'd run down too quick. So the batteries seem like they don't last. I mean, it's got a USB built in, so it's easy to charge. But yeah, I always forgot. I think that was the point. It was me, not it. It's me, not you. But I would always forget to charge it, and then the remote would never be there when I needed it. Another question then: how many Stream Decks do I use? So I've got two Stream Deck XLs on my desk, and then a Stream Deck Plus. I've also got 2 of the Stream Deck pedals just down below as well. And I will say that the Stream Deck Plus, if you've got a Stream Deck XL and are considering getting another Stream Deck, because there is this thing that happens when you've got Stream Decks, or when you buy your first Stream Deck, that you have an idea of what it is you want to do with it, and then you get it and you realize actually you can do a whole load more with it than just switch scenes in Ecamm or OBS or whatever you bought it for. And so then there is a temptation to expand and get more of them. I will say that if you've got a Stream Deck XL or a Stream Deck Plus, those two do make a good pairing. So if you've got the Plus, adding an XL will be good, because if you've just got only the Stream Deck Plus, then what you're going to find is with these buttons here, you're quickly going to sort of run out of screen space. And whilst you can sort of swipe to different pages and set up different profiles, you're really limited with only having 8 buttons available. So having the Stream Deck XL just gives you more screen space, basically, for more buttons. And the way that I use this is basically what I press on here changes what's on the other Stream Deck. So for example, like this one, we were talking about Moom. I've got something that I press here and it changes the profile on this one, so that this is for when I'm starting a task a new task that doesn't have an existing layout, then I'll use this to position all of my windows so these correspond to different positions on the screen. But then once I'm done, I can press a button on here and it will go back to another profile. So they work really well together because they do give you something different. Obviously, the Excel gives you more button space, in a given page of buttons or a given profile, whilst this also then gives you the added sort of functionality then of these buttons, of the dials, I should say. And the dials, you can use them in Ecamm, so these are set up for things like volume of guests and things like that in Ecamm. I've just realized that looks really dusty. It doesn't actually look that dusty to me here, but that suddenly looks really dusty. I need to get a duster out, I think. Anyway, so that I use for levels in audio levels in Ecamm, but I also use it for like zooming in on a screen and so on, or volume controls. But then there's things like in Photoshop, things like brush size, opacity, things like that, you can use for that. So anything that you want incremental control, the dials are really good for that. So these two are actually a really good pairing. If you are gonna, I got one and want to maybe add another one in, then those two work really well together. Now, the reason why I originally added this second Stream Deck XL though was to account for when I've got a particular situation, a live situation, either in a live event or a live meeting or a live stream like this or a recording, where I've got all of these buttons here to control Ecamm, and it was where I wanted to have more buttons than 32 in a live situation, and I've got this muscle memory that I just know where buttons are. So if I want to switch to the side camera over here, I don't need to look down at the Stream Deck. I just instinctively know to press this button and it will switch over. And same with switching back, I just instinctively know to sort of touch the bottom corner of the Stream Deck and then press this button and then it switches back. So you do build up this muscle memory of knowing where things are. The problem I then had was when I needed more than 32 buttons, you do have pages, so you can create different pages of buttons on the Stream Deck. So something like this. If I press this button, it's going to go to the next page of buttons. So now I've got a whole load of other buttons. And what I found was in a live situation, when I'd sort of switched to a different page, sometimes I would forget exactly which page I was on. And so I'd go to press the button that I thought was going to do one thing, and then it would do something else because I was on a different page. And so that's when I added in the additional Stream Deck XL. It's kind of like overkill for just general use, I would say, but that's why I added it in. However, they did add in a function which kind of almost negates the issue now, which is that you can now pin actions in Stream Deck. So if we go over to my Stream Deck on here, so this is the Stream Deck. This is the scene that I'm in just at the moment, but here is this main scene that's going to bring me back to the front. So something like that. So if I wanted to make sure that I could always get back to that main scene, you've got this option now if you right click to pin it. And what that means is that in any of these other profiles here, well, that one's actually duplicate of it because I duplicated the profile for something else. But if you'll see here that this one, for example, has got a folder in it, but this one, I've now created an empty space. If I go back to that first page of the profile and right click and pin it, basically what it's going to do is it's going to make that action available on every page where there isn't anything in that position. So if we go to page 2, you remember that there was that folder there, so it's now left the folder there. But on page 3, it has put that pinned action in. And so what that means is that this thing that I had with wanting to have a few actions, and I can delete this folder, by the way, and you'll see that that pinned action comes back. It means that whichever page I'm on, I can still always get back to that main scene. So I'd say that probably I wouldn't have necessarily added in the additional Stream Deck XL if they'd had this pinning feature earlier, because it's really only a few key scenes that I wanted to make sure that I could always get back to with that sort of muscle memory. And so I could just have a collection of maybe, my sort of 8 core scenes I just pinned, and then, put everything else on every other page. And that would have solved that problem. I do have pedals as well. So I've got 2 of the Stream Deck pedals, which is basically 6 buttons, so 3 on each. And that's something that's it might seem a little bit odd, the idea of controlling your computer with pedals. But I had a set of pedals actually before the Elgato released theirs, and they were USB pedals that I then programmed with Keyboard Maestro to do other things. But as soon as the Stream Deck pedals came out, I was yeah, all over them. They're great, and they can be useful for lots of things. First of all, to be able to obviously switch scenes hands-free if you are using it in a live production setup. But you'd be surprised as well where they come in for. I mean, I don't do much editing, as you know. That's the whole point of the channel. But I do occasionally, like certain videos or like intros or not intros. What am I saying? Like promotional videos or things like that. I might use the some sort of editing software to just slice things together. I've been doing some shorts recently for the Ecamm channels, so they've been going out on Ecamm's YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and so on. So those ones are technically done in one take, but I have needed to just sort of tighten them up to get them within a minute. So when you're using editing software, though, things like you click in the timeline and you want to delete everything before the slice, or you want to put a slice in the timeline, then I find that pedals are useful for that, because you're using one mouse to control the where you're positioning your cursor, and then you might be using the dial on the Stream Deck Plus to sort of scrub backwards and forwards, and then you've got a pedal that you can press to just sort of slice or whatever. So they are things that come in handy with those as well. So that you'll find with a Stream Deck pedal, once you start using them, that they do have other uses as well. You're welcome, Richard. And by the way, thanks for stopping by. Great to see you here. New face in the chat. So let me just see what other questions that I had come up recently. We talked about spaces, and there was another thing that came up with Stream Deck actually, which was just one in the Discord server, which is still going. I've still got the Digital Stage Network, which is for Academy members. So that is our closed community for Academy members, but you can also sign up to join that if you want as well. That is a paid community, but we do still have the Discord though as well. So you can find a link to that in the chat, and I'll drop a link just in the chat here as well. But somebody asked in there specifically about how you can how you can open and close an app with a single button on Stream Deck. And the thing about that is, if I just come to a blank page here, I'll just delete this. We'll go to their nice fresh scene. Oh no, I've made the schoolboy error of actually just creating a new page in the profile that I need to actually switch my scenes in Ecamm. Bear with me one sec. Let me just delete this. Get this one out from here. I will add another one in. Right. I think we're ready. So the question was, how you can have a button to open and close an app. Now, there is a button in here. So if we go to System, there is a button for open, and there is a button for close. But obviously, that's now two separate buttons. And by the way, you just click in the button, choose the app or file that you want to open or close. So let's say what we want. Let's say calculator. So you've got a button there that you can press and it will open up the calculator, and you can do the same with the close one. But the question was, how can you have a button that's going to toggle that? And there is one here which is hotkey switch. So you've got the hotkey, which is where you can put a keyboard shortcut like Command P or whatever it happens to be. And then there's a hotkey switch, which is the one that's basically going to toggle between two actions. And so one action might be, well, let's say Command C, copy, and Command V. So you could press it once to copy and press it another time to paste, for example. So that's got two things in. But there isn't one in there that's going to allow you to, basically open and close an app. Well, the key here is to actually use a multi-action instead. And you would think that a multi-action, we don't want to do a multi-action. It's just two single actions. Well, you can also use this multi-action switch. And then all you would do is you would use the multi-action switch. And the way that that works is you can chain together multiple different actions for one state, and then chain together a different set of actions for the second state. So all you do though is we're just going to use this with a single action. One of them would be the open, and then you would select in exactly the same way. Let's say calculator again. Where's it gone? There. So we'll do that. So now when you press the button once, it's going to open the calculator. Click on the number 2. So this is what's going to happen with the second state. And then here you would just select the calculator again. Like this. It's open up somewhere else, but there you go. So now we've got an open and a close on that button. And so what's going to happen then is when you press this button, it is going to, first of all, open the calculator, and it's just done it somewhere else, and then press a button again, and then it's going to close it. So that is how you could have a button to basically open and close an app. So that is how that works. Hey there, Yolanda. Great to see you here. Hi, George, as well. Question: when using my RødeCaster Duo, I added sound effects and they can be heard by the audience, but I cannot hear the sound effects on my end in my headset. That is that's interesting. The thing that I would suggest checking, which is it's not the default behavior, so it would be kind of odd if this had somehow happened. But if you go onto your RødeCaster and then just check, so what we're talking about here, by the way, is these pads here can trigger sound effects, and so the thing to check then is making sure that that is coming through into your headphones. And one place to check would be to go into the settings, by clicking up on the top, and then you would go to outputs, and then go to routing, and then check in your headphone 1 and make sure that it is set to main mix. That means you're going to hear everything. You could have a situation where if it's set to custom, for example, then this is the sound pads. You could potentially have it where you've got that as excluded. As I say, it would be odd if that had just happened on its own, because you certainly should be hearing it. But that could be one reason why you're not hearing it, is if it's been excluded from here. Apart from that, I tell you another reason, another way that it might be, is the way that I use these buttons down at the bottom. So you've got a little ear symbol. Let's see if we can see that. My gosh, everything is so dusty. I hadn't realized. You've got a little ear symbol down here. And then you've got one which is a little speaker with a line through it, the mute symbol. So the way that that works is that on your primary headphones, so the one that you're listening to, the headphone 1, if you press one of these green buttons here, it means that you're going to hear just that particular channel. So I could exclude all of these things here and just press this one, so that it means that I'm only hearing my microphone. So if you've inadvertently pressed that, and that could be the case, you're hearing yourself, but it would mean that you wouldn't hear the sound pads or indeed anything else. Now, I actually use these intentionally because you can listen to more than one channel. So I actually have it set so that I listen to absolutely every channel, but then I'm selectively muting the ones that I don't want to go out into the stream. So right now we've got our Zoom call going in the background, and I can hear that. And I can adjust the level of that. But because I've muted it in here, I'm still hearing it because I've got the listen button pressed. But this one is set to mute. So it means that the audio from the Zoom isn't passing through into Ecamm, which is on a different channel, and therefore isn't passing through into the live stream. So because I don't want to have custom routing, I want to be able to easily switch these on and off. So if somebody in the Zoom's got a question, for example, I would be able to technically just press this button, and then you would all be able to hear them as well on YouTube. But that could well be the case. And these buttons, by the way, are a little bit difficult to see, whether they are on or off as a default. And so one thing that you can do to adjust that is if you go to the display and then go to brightness, you'll see that you've got the display brightness, which is of the screen, but you've also got this buttons brightness. And if you tap on that one, you've got basically two different states here. So you've got, I don't know if you're seeing that, it's maybe the brightness is not so good for you to be able to see it. Maybe it's too bright, but you've basically got the way to adjust both of them, the active point or the inactive. And so if you're adjusting the inactive, you'll see this little green bar around the outside. The start point of that is showing the brightness of the button when it is inactive. So now I've turned these that up. It means that when these are not pressed, they are going to be brighter than they were before, because I've increased the brightness of the inactive state. And what that means is it's actually really difficult for me even now, it's probably even harder for you, to see that these two are currently active, as in these two channels are muted, and these are not. And actually the inactive state is usually a lot higher, so it's really difficult to see where the difference between them. It would be very easy to inadvertently press one of these green buttons so that technically you're listening to your mic at the same time as and so therefore blocking out the sound pad. So just go into this brightness setting, and I would recommend turning the inactive one all the way down, so that you've got that really bright distinction between those things that are active and those that are not. I know that you're probably not seeing this quite as as bright as I am, but now I can clearly see that these ones are off and this one is on. So that could be another reason for that. So just take a look at that and let me know if that does seem to solve it. Hey Calvin, great to see you. I've seen people daisy chain Stream Decks. How is that achievable? So you can do that with that device that I was just talking about, where you've got the USB hub, which is this one. And that gives you the ability to basically have your Stream Deck Plus linking into a Stream Deck XL, for example. So there is that way. Other than that, there's no specific way to daisy chain them as such. You would need to have, because they've only got one USB-C input, you would need to have something in there to connect them. I mean, this as well is technically, I've got this hub here plugged into another hub. So it's my CalDigit Element hub feeds into this using this socket here. And then this feeds into my other two Stream Deck XLs on my desk. So that's how that's happening. So that's the only way that you can technically daisy chain them from one to the other. So daisy chaining obviously means linking from one into another, into another, into another. But yeah, other than that, there's no way, because they don't have a USB-C output except this hub that you can get to plug into there. By the way, since we're talking about the concept of daisy chaining, one thing to make sure you're doing there, if you are connecting multiple things, it is always better, if possible, to go straight into your computer. So let's say you've got, I've got now technically 3 docks. I've got the dock that's on the back of, 2 docks, 1 dock and 2 hubs. To explain that difference, the distinction between a dock and a hub is going to take a USB-C or whatever it is going into your computer, and then it's going to give you basically more of the same types of port going out. So USB-C connection, and then you've got multiple USB connections going out, be it USB-C or USB-A or whatever. A dock, on the other hand, is going to have multiple different types of connection, like you might have a single USB that goes into your computer or Thunderbolt or whatever it is, but then you may have the option to plug in other USB devices or maybe audio or monitors or things like that. So it's basically combining different types of connection into the one device. So that's the distinction technically between a hub and a dock. So I've technically got 1 dock, which allows me, it's a wavelength dock, and it allows me to plug in multiple monitors. So there is a limit on the MacBook Pro that I've got of 2 external monitors. But I've got 5 effectively, well, 6 actually, if you include the Elgato prompter. So I've got that dock, and then I've also got a CalDigit Element hub, and that gives me 4 USB-Cs and 3 USB-As. And now technically I've also got another hub as well, which is this one. And the thing to note about that, and I'm bringing it back to daisy chaining, is that ideally, you want them just to plug directly into your computer, because obviously the point of having a hub is that you're channeling lots of other peripherals through it into your computer. And so if you can separate that out into individual sockets on your computer, like if you've got 2 USB-Cs, have 1 dock going to one and 1 in the other, or 1 hub going to one and 1 going to the other, then that's going to be the best possible solution. However, if you do need to connect them up and daisy chain them, then just note the speed of connection of the individual dock or hub. So for example, the CalDigit Element hub that I use is Thunderbolt 4, whereas the wavelength dock that I use is Thunderbolt 3. So if I was to plug the Thunderbolt 3 into the computer first and then plug the Thunderbolt 4 into that, I would basically be limiting the bandwidth of everything down to that lowest common denominator, because it's effectively, think of it like a channel going from one into the other. I'm basically squeezing the Thunderbolt 4 into Thunderbolt 3 and then into the computer, if you want to think of it like that. So always make sure that whatever the highest speed dock or hub you've got is, that is the one that's going directly into the computer first. So in that case, if I was going to daisy chain that hub and dock, I would plug the Element hub into the computer first, and then the Thunderbolt 3 dock into the hub afterwards. And so that's the way that I would set that up. As it is, I've got them both going into the computer individually. However, the Stream Deck, I did, because that isn't Thunderbolt, that is USB, I plugged that into the CalDigit Element hub. And by the way, the things that I've got plugged into that, if you want to know, how much they can power, because this is an issue, and why I bought that one in particular, you're looking for something with a large power supply that has the ability to power these things. So that's why this one has got a 100 watt input. So if you've got a 100 watt power supply, it doesn't come with it. And by the way, it has got an SD card reader on it as well. I don't use that, so but anyway, it is there as well. That comes on that particular hub. But yeah, this has got a 100 watt power supply, so it's going to be able to power things like the OBSBot camera and so on that we mentioned earlier. But into my CalDigit Element hub, in my USB-Cs, I've got the two coming from the RødeCaster, so that's going into the Element hub. I've then got my Elgato prompter just over here, which is also going into that same hub. I've then got this one, which is plugged in via USB-C into that same hub as well. So that's 4 USB-Cs into the CalDigit Element hub. And then now I've freed up a couple of things, because I used to have my other two Stream Deck XLs plugged in via USB-A into there. I've now got, what else have I got in there? Something else USB-C, USB-A, I mean. So there's really quite a lot of power going into that, but it has got a lot of power to handle it. So yeah, that's a few points on daisy chaining. I always seem to waffle on with long drawn out answers to what seem like simple questions. So the thing that spurred that on was this: can people daisy chain Stream Decks? No, not unless they're using the Stream Deck Plus. There's the concise answer. Another question that I got quite a lot actually since I made the video about the RødeCaster video. So that is this device, and the question was, I mean, the video, it is an amazing device, and I'm really impressed with what they've created. It is, for me, hands down, the best video switcher out there at the moment, just because of the versatility of the way that you can set it up. There may be some others that you might say have got, more or less technical capabilities, and there's, like if you think about the ATEM, for example, that is, I would say, has been the market leader in that particular space. I think that hands down, the RødeCaster video is now just gone, leaps and bounds beyond that. And it is because of the ease of programming, the way you can create different scenes and things like that with it. In the same way that we used to with Ecamm, to be able to create all of these different scenes to share different parts of the screen and things like that. Creating these in Ecamm is just so easy. And what Rode have done with the RødeCaster video is they've brought some of that ease of use into hardware switches. So, and the same with, what I do with Ecamm, you can do with OBS and other software-based camera switches. But it was always the case that if you wanted to do anything like that in ATEM, and I know there's some ATEM superfans out there, but the fact of the matter is it was not the most intuitive user interface to build out any scenes, and there was a sort of, I think, a sort of hangover from broadcast technology, that things were done in the ATEM in a very similar way to the way that you would be used to if you were coming from like a professional television studio and so on. But I felt that there was a bit of a barrier to people, regular users who were just wanting to do some camera switching on their video podcast or their content or in their Zoom meetings or whatever it is. And there's so many people I have been on calls with who said that they got the ATEM because they watched some YouTubers talking about it, and that's what they use to switch cameras and do all of this kind of stuff. And so they figured that that's what they needed, and then they got it, and then realized that, oh, actually, there's a bit of a learning curve here. I mean, there is with everything, isn't there, ultimately? But there were certain things that just were not necessarily logical and intuitive out of the box. What Rode have done with the RødeCaster video is, I genuinely believe they've built something that is completely intuitive out of the box. I had the RødeCaster video pre-launch for about a month, something like that. But I was honestly so busy with other things that I didn't make my video about it until the day of the embargo lifting. And I actually took it out of the box 2 days before. I spent a day just setting it up. And when I say a day, I mean about 5 hours, something like that, of just getting it out, plugging it all in, opening up the app, and it just felt to me completely intuitive to sort of set up and run. And then the next day, the actual day of the embargo lifting, the majority of the time, honestly, was spent creating the keynote presentation that I used for my like immersive presentation style to demonstrate some of the features and things like that. So I really felt like I took it out of the box and could have been up and running with it in within a day easily. And that is down to the user interface that they've created. So as you would have seen on my video about it, I was really super enthusiastic. I think they've done an amazing job. I did get lots of messages afterwards saying, is it going to be replacing Ecamm for my content though? And actually it's still not, because nothing quite for me matches the versatility that Ecamm gives in terms of just being able to create scenes on the fly. And although they've brought some of that to Rode, we've still got more versatility in software. So for me, that's where I'm at with it. It's an amazing device. I will be making lots more content about it. But I did just want to answer that question, though, that a lot of people have asked me either in messages, in comments and things like that. You know, people thought I'm such an Ecamm fanboy, but I'm a Rode fanboy as well. But was I going to be sort of switching? And the answer to that is no. I'm still holding out. I'm still hoping that one day we may be able to get all of the individual cameras from the RødeCaster video and take those in as individual camera feeds into Ecamm, because it would then become the ultimate audio and video hub and the ultimate pairing for Ecamm, or indeed OBS or any of those, because then you would be able to plug all your cameras into it and then with one cable connect to your computer, and suddenly you've got effectively a RødeCaster Duo plugged in there. Or it's technically more than a Duo, because you've got two XLR mic inputs, but you can also at the same time also connect to wireless mic inputs, and you can connect USB mics as well. So it would become like the ultimate hardware hub for something like Ecamm or OBS, where you've got individual camera feeds and so on. As it stands at the moment, you've only basically got two HDMI feeds into the computer, one of those being the camera feed, and then another one you can choose whether it's like the gallery or the gallery, not the gallery. What do they call it? The monitor, where you monitor all of your different feeds and so on. So there, you've got potentially two different inputs, but not quite accessing all of the video feeds. There may be some limitations on bandwidth with that at the moment, though, in terms of it being USB as opposed to Thunderbolt 4. If it was Thunderbolt, then it should be able to handle the multiple camera feeds in the same way that you can get a Blackmagic Decklink Quad 4K, which is a card. You have to put it into an enclosure yourself, but that then allows you to plug in 4 cameras and then with a single Thunderbolt cable take that all into the computer. So technically the idea of having multiple camera feeds coming in is not an odd one, but it's probably technically not quite possible at the moment with the RødeCaster video. In any case, I digress. It is a great device, but I'm not fully replacing my setup with it, which is why at the moment it is still here for testing, but it's currently off. So I'll be making some more videos about it as we go on over the coming weeks. By the way, my YouTube channel, I will be getting back to making regular videos. When I say that, I mean obviously I'm making a video right now, but I mean actual recorded videos rather than live streams. I started off my channel making basically a video a day. I did that for 100 days, and then I extended that out to a year. I think I missed the actual 365 in the first year, but that was, you know, 3.5 years ago now that I did that. And actually, over the past 2 years, I've been building out the Academy, so the Digital Stage Academy. We've just had a period where doors were open to that. They're now closed until sometime in the new year. But that's really been my focus for the past couple of years, has been building out that content. And so what that's meant is my YouTube content has somewhat suffered, really, because I've not been making the regular videos on my channel. And you can see this if I go into my YouTube stats here, go into my content, and if we go into the videos, you can see here how many videos I've made this year. Maybe I've done more than I thought. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This was not a public video, and neither was this. So 7 recorded videos this year. That's how many actual videos I've made. Obviously, if I go into live streams, there is more. Those have generally been weekly, with a few weeks missed here and there, but that's been the majority of my content. I did make a conscious decision with my live streams about 2.5 years ago, actually, to change the format of them. This is obviously a Q&A type thing, but you will notice that most of my videos now, my live videos, I sort of just go straight into the content, and then I come to the Q&A or the questions later on in the video. I also don't have a countdown. I think that there's this perception, if you're looking in a YouTube feed, if you see that a video about, let's say, Stream Deck was posted 2 years ago, it doesn't feel as out of date as something that says streamed 2 years ago. I think there's some psychological thing that goes on where we think that we've kind of missed out if it was streamed live 2 years ago. It seems like a 2-year-old live event feels older, I think, than a 2-year-old recorded video, rightly or wrongly. I also think there's a different expectation with live streams where people expect that a live stream is going to be something different to a recorded video and not going to have the same content. In my case, with my live streams generally, this is a bit of an exception. I'm doing them pretty much as I would do a regular video anyway, because all of my videos are technically live to tape, albeit to tape. Well, to the hard drive, but you know what I mean. I don't do any editing with my videos anyway. So technically, if you were to watch this video here about the display, for example, that would be the same as if I had just recorded it and then posted it. However, this one shows up as a live stream rather than a recorded video. Now, that combined with the fact that I've just not been putting out as much content, I've only literally been doing a live stream a week as opposed to a video every day or whatever it was that I did when I started. What that's meant is that it has had an effect on my my analytics, obviously. So if I go to my all-time lifetime views, you can see that there's this trend where it's gone up and up and up, albeit gradually. But then it reached a point about the beginning of this year, and it's been slowly tailing off there. And that's because the majority of my content was actually created around this time. It's just that the audience has built up over time, but now I've got a lot more outdated content than new content and new tutorials. So one of the things now, I've literally just finished the sort of relaunch of the Academy, or this what do you want to call it? This window for people to join the Academy. So there's been a big update there. I've just finalized some of the final content in that, and actually it's more complete in terms of the full body of work that's in there. So as we go into the new year, I'll be looking to start creating more on YouTube again, and so you'll see some more up-to-date videos on all the things that I've previously done. I'll probably need to just actually go down my list of old videos and remake a number of those, because lots of the software and the products and things like that I talk about have been updated. So Stream Decks obviously have been updated a lot since the original video, certainly that I made. But then even tools like Moom, I've got a video on the website, on the channel about Moom, but that's had a recent update. So that is just a little bit about the plans for the future as well on the channel. If anyone's got any other questions though, drop them into the chat. And if not, then what I'll do is I'll come to any that are in the comments as well. If you want to drop them in there, I will try to get back to them. One of the things I need to get better at in the new year, by the way, and I think I said this last year, I need to get better at keeping on top of comments. There is a backlog for me to get through in YouTube video comments. There just seems to be too many draws and demands on time, and so I haven't been that great at keeping on top of those. But I need to start doing that a little bit more. So with that said, if there are no other questions at all, then let me see if this is going to work. I got a feeling that last time when I tried to end my stream, let me think what happened here. My multi-action that normally ends the stream seemed like it did not work, but we'll see if it works this time. So thanks for watching, and let's see. Oh, it did work this time. If you want to ask any questions, feel to drop them in the chat or in the Discord, in the comments, and I will catch you next time. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.